All right, guys, I spoke to Michael Bisping last night. Now, Michael shared something with me that I thought was private. I wasn't going to bring this to you guys. And it had to do with Bisping versus Jake Paul. And Bisping shared with me that there is a commission that not only is willing to sanction this, they're inviting them to come do the fight within their jurisdiction. I wasn't going to talk about that, but in the meanwhile, since Bisping did tell me this, Bisping put this out, the whole world's seen it now. So, I don't know a lot if they're going to go to Manitoba or wherever this was. I don't know if this place has a venue. I don't even know if that's viable. But the option does exist, and Bisping is at least publicly letting you know this option does exist, which means this fight can happen. Why would he do that? Is he looking to back Jake Paul down? Maybe. Is he looking to build an interest and see if there really is something? Maybe, but it's likely somewhere between one of those two. Now, here's one of the things that has bothered me, and I'm very attached to something the kids call social media, particularly an avenue called Twitter. And many people instantly gave Jake a hard time and said, why aren't you calling out an active fighter? And more specifically, why are you not calling out a boxer? The reason that's bothering me is from a psychological standpoint. 100% of the people who have chosen to publicly point out that Paul is not going after active top-ranked boxers are doing it because they believe that they have solved the mystery, that they have cracked the code, and they want their followers and anybody else that gets their hands on it to see they are the detective that has gotten to the bottom of the Jake Paul case. Well, maybe, but we know that's what Jake is doing, and we know it's what's Logan doing because Jake and Logan told us. They told us what they're doing. This isn't some secret. Let me give an example. Dana White went on the podcast that Logan Paul does a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and Logan was trying to negotiate with Dana for his brother. He wanted to get his brother a UFC contract, and Dana even played a little, well, what weight can he get to? Well, 175. And Dana's going, well, that's not a weight class for us, right? But they had this conversation, just to refresh your memory. Logan then offered in there somewhere about the tremendous size difference that would be his brother versus Conor McGregor. And Dana said, yeah, that's not why we do it. Your brother's huge. And Logan goes, well, that's why I fought Floyd. He just offered it. It was no secret. He said, Floyd is way better, but there's a question of, can my size get me through the night? That's what we were doing there. We weren't attempting to adjudicate the sweet sciences under the Queensberry rules. We were doing something else. We were trying to see this David versus Goliath when both guys got a little bit of understanding. One guy's much bigger, one guy's much better. Okay, we knew that as the audience. That was good enough for us. We wanted to see that fight, and we did. We all tuned in for that. They did great numbers. Even on a Sunday night, they did fine numbers. I'm only bringing that to you because there's nothing mysterious or underhanded about what Jake is doing. Jake is very above board. Now, I do think inside of Jake, he would like to fight some of those top boxers. And you guys are wrong and you are unfair. If Jake wants to get in there with a former world champion, do you? Before you think he's doing something wrong, I'll just turn it to you, just personally. Do you want to fight Michael Bisping? Okay, so Jake does get some kind of credit then. And secondly, before you make believe that Jake's only going after big name former fighters, before you make believe that, Jake's the same guy that went after Canelo Alvarez. His brother Logan's the same guy that went after and got Floyd Mayweather. Both of them have shown an interest in getting in there with Mike Tyson. So I just don't love this theory. Because this Paul game that we're playing right now, it's not sustainable. It's not going to be around for long, but we could get another 12 months out of it. It's very rare in this sport that even we, the viewer, get to have any fun. I mean, this is pretty serious business. We're arguing with somebody, or it's important to us, or we're locked into this discipline and we want to see it succeed. Like, it's a pretty intense sport to be part of, even from the comfort of your living room. But never, you do get to have some fun. Logan versus Floyd was fun. Jake versus Askren was fun. Jake versus T-Wood was fun and interesting. Jake versus Bisping serves that same point. And I think my larger point is to just remind you guys, there's nothing underhanded here. Now, Jake is not only looking for spoofs. He is willing to get in there with top boxers. Guys, boxers don't want to get there with him. So if you're still on the anti-Jake Paul bandwagon, that's okay. He doesn't mind. I don't mind. But if you're going to do it, there is a level of sincerity and genuineness that we have to show. And I'm just correcting and amending the record that this is not all Jake's going after. Jake went in there after Fury, who's a second-generation guy. Fury didn't have some beautiful record, but he was of the right age, he was of the right size, and he is disciplined only in boxing. He serves every criteria that you guys are asking for. It wasn't Jake that pulled out of that fight. Don't forget that. Jake has asked for Canelo. Jake never rescinded his offer to Canelo. There's another rumor that's going around. I didn't see this with my own eyes. I did not see where Jake called for a fight with Oscar De La Hoya. I didn't see that. But I did see an article where Jake is calling for a fight with either Michael Bisping or Oscar De La Hoya. Fine. What? Because Oscar's a little bit older? I got to come back to the original question. If you're trying to diminish Jake and his sincerity and his work ethic and his heart and moreover his bravery, I got to just turn it back to you. Would you box Oscar De La Hoya? Because a moment ago when Jake was trying to do it, you were saying that Oscar's retired. A moment ago when Jake was trying to do it, you were saying that Oscar's too old. A moment ago when Jake was trying to do it, you say that Oscar's too far removed. But let me ask you, and you're internalizing this, you're not going to have the opportunity. But if you did, would you put on the gloves and go in there and box Oscar De La Hoya? No, you would not. But we're very quick to tease Jake's willingness for trying to. I don't agree with that. You're right, he's not a boxer. That's true. He's something else that got into boxing. But we can't say that forever. If 2 years go by and he's still knocking guys out in boxing and he's in the gym every goddamn day, at some point he becomes a boxer. Right now, he's the most feared man in boxing. You want Jake to fight a boxer? You're upset because Jake keeps calling people out? How about somebody that you like, that you think fits the criteria, goes and calls Jake out? Because he hasn't said no yet. He has not been called out. Nobody in boxing wants to get in there with him because they're really not as sure as they pretend they are. Think anybody in boxing doesn't want to be a main event? Think anybody in boxing doesn't want to be associated with a famous guy and fight in a sold-out arena? It's everything you dream of. You think anybody in boxing doesn't want a contract with Showtime? You think anybody in boxing doesn't want to make $1 million? They want all of those things. They don't want to fight Jake. So if you don't like the people Jake's calling out, fair game. But why don't you get one of these people that you hope he calls out to instead call him out? And until we get to that point, I'm right. Jake Paul, right now, is the most feared man in boxing.